let's make some Christmas cards using scraps of fabric and whatever you have around the house that you think will suit the cards. Hello everyone, I'm Caroline and welcome to my home on the hillside here in Wales. And Christmas is coming. It's already mid-October when I'm filming this video. I don't know when you're watching it. When are you watching it? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. I've got some bits and pieces here now. The main theme is going to be scrap fabric. Now, I've only got a small amount of Christmas scrap fabric, so I have supplemented it with I've got some fat quarters. I'm in a bit of a mess here. I've got so much. Look, I got some Christmas fat quarters here. I've got some bits of pretty braid. I've got a little tub of lace that I think might come in useful with some little bits of ribbon. Whatever you've got, gather it around you. Not too cluttered, otherwise you won't be able to move. I've got some lace. I've got little bits of bling. Could have some bling for some of these. Jar of buttons. I've got some threads. Now, don't worry about using your best threads for this, as long as they're not the cheapy, nasty ones that fall apart, which I think this one may be. So we'll see what we can do with that and see just how well it lasts, or how well it holds up under the strain. So I've got a selection of cottons. Got some little dangly angels in here. Let's have a look. Just little dangles you can hang off things. I don't know if I'm going to use them yet. I'm going to see how the moment takes me. It's almost like an improv type craft, this one, because yeah, I could plan exactly what I want, but I think I'm going to look at the fabrics, see what I've got and work from there. I've got some card bases. Now, these are not the biggest in the world. I did intend on making larger cards, and then do you think I can find my cards from last year? They've disappeared somewhere, so I'm going to have to dig them out by the next time I do a Christmas card video, which may be soon. So I've got this one. This is very pretty. These are almost like fabric. They possibly are a cotton paper. So I've got a few bits and pieces here that I'm going to make some cards with. So, no time for chatting. Let's get on with crafting. I just realised I didn't have my camera turned on above the table. I have no idea how much of this I've missed. So I will give you a quick update on what I've done so far. I have joined together lots of strips to make a square. Then I cut the square out into a tree shape. And now you're catching up with me. So now I'm going to fix the tree to the card using, again, another bit of glue stick. You don't need a lot, really. Pop some there, and then I'm going to have to pull this closer to me so I can see what I'm doing to get it straight-ish. And I am going to stick a pin in the top of this because I'm a bit worried that top is going to wander off. There we go, like that. Don't forget to open your card up. And then I'm going to go right on the edge of this, enclosing the end in the zigzag. I think I'll start on the bottom where it'll be less noticeable that I've started, I think. Then turn it. If you want to be sure that that edge is being covered by the stitches, I think this is showing up on my little phone camera, then make sure it goes between, exactly in the centre where your foot joins you, in line with the needle when it's at dead centre. A little bit further. I always like to turn it by hand when I'm trying to get to the end. It's just a little bit easier to control. Now, this is a wonky tree design. Okay, so maybe it wasn't planned to be a wonky tree design, but it's ended up wonky and I think it's lovely. Again, you can embellish with what you want. I got this pack of stick-on bits and pieces here, and I thought, well, I might as well try using them, see what happens. So I put a star at the top, I think. Let's have a look. I don't know how sticky they are. Yeah, a star's going to look pretty at the top. I think most of the sticky is staying on the plastic. Yep, so I've turned my glue gun on again. Oh, wait a minute, that one's got some sticky on. There we go, you can pop that one at the top there. And then what should we put on next? Should we put some hearts or some half pearls? Half pearls, I think. And what size? Smaller ones. Let's see if these will come off with their glue still attached. That's the only problem with buying some of your things from charity shops, is people have had them in their cupboards for years and sometimes they're really not as good as they should be. You see, that bit of glue on there is really fiddly. If I cut it off, it's going to stick to my scissors. I'm trying to fold it over on itself. There we go. And I suppose as well, if you use the really big ones, when you put these in an envelope, they're going to bulge. So if you're trying to keep your envelope thin, to keep your postage down, which is quite understandable nowadays, postage has gone through the roof. You can do this in any colour theme you want. You can use blues, you can use greens, greys would look lovely for a nice modern looking card. And then your embellishment, it's really tough to pull off. You can use buttons, you can use bows, you can do a little bit of embroidery on them. But I like the pearls. Random is very difficult, isn't it? I'm trying to get these to look random, and every now and then they start to look a little bit uniform. One right down in the corner there. I don't like that one there. We'll pop that one over there. Oh, there we go. Look at that. A quick way of using up some of your scraps. And you've got yourself a really good value Christmas card. You just buy the blanks, and it doesn't have to be this stuff. You can use any Christmas blank that you can find. Should we make another one? One thing to remember with all these cards is don't worry about the size of your card or the size of your scraps. You just adjust them until they fit the sort of thing you want. So just to show you one way, there are lots of ways of deciding your size. I'm going to draw around the outside of this card. If I pop that against the top line there, save me drawing a line, and just roughly, you know, you don't want to be going any further than the edge of there. And now that's your design area. First one I'm going to do is a tree. Now there are so many designs. I mean, I could do a wonky tree like that, or I could do a straight tree like that, or I could do a one like that with lots of different layers. So I'm going to draw a line to start, just in here, just a bit, really, really roughly. And you know then, right, really this is my design area. So I'm going to need a trunk. You've got to have a trunk on your tree. So I'm going to do a trunk, about that wide. And then first card, let's make this very easy. We'll come straight across the bottom there. And then we're halfway or about there-ish. You don't have to be perfect with these. It's brilliant. That is the size of the finished tree I want. So now I can just find some fabric. I've dug out a few of my scrap browns. I think I've got a flowery one here, but I don't think that's going to work, is it? This I thought would work really well. So I'm going to get my scissors and roughly cut out this size. So, if I can measure the lines on this, that's very convenient. Like that. And then I'm going to want it about there. You can just do this by eye if you want to. I'm just trying to show you if you're feeling a little bit insecure about doing this. I can't do that. Don't worry, you'll be fine. There are ways around to make it dead easy and you can't fail. I've got this for the Christmas tree. If I'm going to just use one piece, I think I'll use this. You can see I tore this and it's not a good quality fabric and it's all puckered up. Right, so we'll use the other side. Got a nice little fold there. So let's have a look. If that was to the halfway and that's to the bottom there, so I'm going to want to cut from there to there. So mark the top of the tree and the outside of the tree with this fold running right down the middle. And then, I'll tell you what, if you're a little bit worried about cutting a straight line, I'm generally not, because I don't mind if it's not straight. Sometimes it adds character, sometimes it looks awful. It depends how it goes. So I'm going to put a crease down there and then cut up the crease, and that should be the right size, in theory. And now we can lay this on my plan. Right, that's certainly not the right size, is it? So we go from there and we'll cut off. I know what I'll do. I'm going to cut a sort of curve. Instead of making it straight, cut a bit of a curve. Let's try that now. And you can see it's still a bit long. Doesn't matter. I'm going to adjust the angle a little bit and do that. Just keep fiddling around until you like what it is. And if they're your scraps, you don't have to worry anyway. Oops, he's a bit short now. But don't tell anybody. They'll never notice. Now, this is such a lovely card. I don't really want to cover it up. So I'm just going to put the basic Christmas tree on like that. And the next thing we're going to do is sew it. Oh, I could do it at a jaunty angle. I do love a jaunty angle, but maybe not for this one. It looks like he's bowing. So it's going to be about there. You have two options. At this point, you can either just glue it on. If you don't want to sew, you can just glue it into place. And then you're pretty much done. I want to sew it to give it a bit more, looks like you've done a little bit more effort on it then. So if that is there, you can either pin it into place, which would be dead easy with this because it's quite fabricy, or I'll show you what I'm going to try doing. I've never done this before, but so many people now are using glue sticks to glue their fabric on instead of basting them. So I'm going to give it a try, just a tiny, tiny bit, which is the straightest bottom edge. You'll go for that. Put that about there. And then tiny, tiny bit of this on the back. I'm not going to be sewing in this area, so I'm not too worried about it gamming up my needle. That's one thing I worry about if you use this glue, is it going to get stuck in your machine? So I'm just going to give it a try on this video, so you can see me fail live if it goes wrong. Right, that doesn't matter if it's sticking up, that'll be fine. The next decision is, what colour am I going to sew it with? And I think black. Green isn't going to work. I want it to stand out. I could use red. What do you think about red? No, I think I'm going to use black. That with my sewing machine. And the next thing to do is to sew all the way around the tree and down the trunk. Don't get it straight. You can get it straight if you want to, but it looks better with a little bit of a wobble. Whatever you do when you're sewing your card, don't put it in like that. You know what's going to happen? Yep, you're going to sew your card together. You need to open it up. So now I think we need a star, or should we put an angel on the top? I've got my angel. Let's have a look at this angel, see what she looks like. Oh, she's going to look very pretty on the top. Oh, does she need to stand up? Yes, she needs to stand up a bit. I wonder if I can cut that loop off. Here we go. I've got these broken old scissors, so I'm going to try cutting it with this. Oh yes, that came off nicely. So there you go. If you need to cut it, you've only got a broken old scissors, you don't have a pliers or a wire cutter or whatever, then you can use one of these. This I got, it was broken. It came in a job lot of other things. I couldn't use it, so it was so sharp it was cutting my fingers. I decided, oh, I'll just wrap some fabric round. I even stuck it on with a bit of masking tape. And that was good for those sort of jobs you don't want to use any decent scissors for. While I'm waiting for my glue gun to hot up, I'm going to stick a little bit of lace on. Now, you can sew this on, but I just fancy sticking it on. It all depends how the mood takes you. Because this is curved on the bottom, it doesn't want to curve. I could put it there, but I think it would look nicer curved around the bottom like that. So I'm just going to snip the top. If you've got this sort of lace, you can manipulate it a little bit. Not much, admittedly, but you should be able to do something with it. You can even cut these off individually and pop them on as decorations like that. No, I don't want to, I don't think. I want to put this around the bottom. Isn't it amazing how long it takes a glue gun to warm up when you really want it to be warm now? Or even 2 minutes ago. One bit of advice if you're using a glue gun, whatever you do, don't force it before it's ready. I've done that and you break the spring. There's like a spring used operates this handle and you break it. So you have to be patient. And it's my worst thing in the world is being patient. A little blob of glue on the back of my angel and put her on top of the tree. And now the challenge comes. Oh, she's a bit wonky. Come on, stand straight. I'm going to put a little tiny, which is easier said than done, bit of hot glue on there and start the first one off. Make sure I've got the cuts at the top. One there. Try and clean off the glue strings as you go on this sort of thing. The next one goes there. Tiny bit. If you put too much, it's going to flow over the top of the flowers and look a right mess. There. Oh, that was a bit more than a tiny bit. But can you see the way that's curving nicely? And then finally, there. And I just thought I could do the same up here. I could either put these on individually, which I don't know if that's going to look very good. So I think I'm going to put them, where will they fit nicely? There. I'm going to put them there as well. Why not? Same they charge. That there. And then I'm going to put the other one directly opposite. There. And then I know exactly where the middle one's going. Well, roughly. Exactly roughly. There, like that. Oh, I like that. Now you've got options. You can stick some beads on. You can do some sewing on this. But I wanted to make the first one fairly easy. But we put a little bit of extra on just to look a bit more impressive. And that was really quick. The things that took the longest were threading my sewing machine and heating my glue gun up. It's that easy to make a card. And you can see I went out to the lines there, but it doesn't matter because it's a sort of folky, country, scrappy looking card. So it doesn't matter. It looks like it's part of the design and that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Right, let's make another one. For this next quick and easy card, I'm going to make a hexie. This is a method of quilting called English paper piecing, but I'm not going to make a quilt. I'm just going to make one hexie. This is the smallest hexie I've got, so it'll suit me fine. Draw around it. It's better with a finer pen, but if you haven't got a finer pen, then don't worry. Just make sure when you're cutting it out, you always cut to the outside of the line or the inside of the line or dead centre of it. I'm going to cut to the inside because that way then I won't have any black showing. I don't suppose it's so important to have it extremely accurate for this, but when you're making a quilt, you really do need it as accurate as you can get it for all your points to match up. Now you need to cover this with some fabric. I've got this lovely spare fabric here. I've got another piece somewhere with some sequins on as well. Can't find it. There it is. So now I'm going to cover this piece of paper with this. So the way I do it is, where's a pin? Where's a pin? I'm just going to cut it roughly to size. I think I may go half sequins, half knot. Can I do that? I do sequins from point to point there. And then pin it in place. I'm going to cut roughly around it. Leaving 1/4 to 1/2 inch seam. You don't want to cut it too tight because we're going to be gluing this in place. You can baste this with thread if you like, but I'm going to do this really quick. And years ago, I didn't realise when I first discovered these, I thought, well, let's see what they're like. They're like glue pens. But what I found is, after a while, I got really irritated by the amount of little plastic pieces that were getting thrown away. So I decided not to use them anymore, and I discovered this little bit of one left today when I was sorting through my old fabric. So I thought, oh, well, I'll use it up. Take my pin out now, and it's really easy to do. I can see why people do it, and I can see where the idea came from to use a glue stick. because I don't think there's much difference between one of these and a glue stick. It's just there's a lot less plastic waste with a glue stick. These are refillable, but the little, I can't remember how to get it out now, the plastic section that this comes in just seems a bit wasteful for plastics for me. But it's undeniable that they are so easy, especially if you've got hand problems or if you're rushing to get a quilt done. On there. And now you've got yourself a hexie that quick. And let's have a look what the front looks like. Is it half and half? Oh, that's pretty good. It's not back on, but it's near enough. So this is going to be going on this card, and it's purely simple, classic style. But I don't know whether, should I go that way or that way? Do I put the sequins at the top? Do you want the angle? I do like it. Do you want the angle? I think I'll do it like that. And I think for me, if you want to give somebody a sewing related gift, whoops, sorry for the clattering. For me, if you want to give somebody a sewing related gift, a patchwork related gift, and I think that's perfect. So we're going to go that way and put it nearer the top, I think, like that. Push it on. And then I got a bit more space then down here. Now this can either be written in or we can put a design on. I wonder if I can make a bow with this. I'm going to cut a strip off and see how it goes. When you're doing this, make sure that you're having fun, just playing. Pretend you're back in school again. This may not work, it may be too thick. I don't know, we shall find out. It's rather large, it's very stretchy this. Don't think it's going to work. I'm going to persevere just for a minute. Thing is, as you shorten it, it's just opening the bow back up again. I think that's a bit of an excessive bow. Oh no, I think it's quite okay. That side's still bigger than the other side, and if I put it really tight and then do that, yeah, I think that's fine. So I'm going to dovetail these. The way to do that is fold them together and then go from the cut end to the folded end. You've got yourself equal dovetails. And do the same with this one. I like to do them 2 at a time, but this is just too slippery and fussy to do. I can't even fold it. So measure roughly the same place. Oh, look at it, it's got a mind of its own, this fabric. About there, that'll do, ish. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I have to take some more. You still can't see the dovetails. This is very springy fabric. That's the best way to describe it. Sorry about that clattering when I put in my scissors down. So which way does this go? That way. There we go. I'm just going to glue that on there. I think that's going to look really cute. I'm going to join it to the bottom of the hexie as well. Like that. Oh no, I really like that. Where are my angels gone? Shall I pop an angel on there? I think I will. Get out my old scissors. Don't forget, don't use any decent scissors for this. It's really not the tool for the job. Little blob of hot glue. And put my angel on there. Now that piece of bow just is not playing games. So what I'm going to do is a teeny bit of hot glue there. Nope, that's too much. Scrape it off. What have I got here? Bit of paper. Scrape off most of that. And then just pop it down where I want it to be. Like that. I may do the same with the other piece. Why not? I've even still got some. It might just be warm enough. Not cool enough. There we go. Oh, I like that. And you can do that with any shape, any colour, any fabric. But that was a really nice, easy one, wasn't it? For this next card craft, using your scrap fabric, I'm going to use this card with an aperture in it. You can open it out like that. You can always just cut yourself a card like this. Just fold a card over. You don't really need the extra fold there. It is ideal. But you could always just glue a piece of Christmas paper on there if you needed to. So the first thing to do is check your aperture size. And this one just happens to be just over 2.5 inches. So I have cut some strips 1.5 inches wide. Every time I do a 1/4 inch seam on either side, it'll take 1/2 inches off the strip. So 1.5 inch strip will become 1 inch. I know, try not to glaze over. It sounds very technical, but it isn't. Every time you do a seam both sides of any piece of fabric, you take off 1/2 inch because that's how much has been taken up by the seams. What we're going to make is 2 strips like that, with a black and a grey and a black and a grey. Doesn't matter which way up you do it because you just turn it the other way and it's perfect. So I'm going to join these with a 1/4 inch seam right sides together. I've pressed both seams open and I've pressed them to the dark side, which means that you put your seam leaning over to the dark side, because if you put it the other way, sometimes it can show through. And this also is going to help when we get to the next stage. So now I want to cut these strips into 1.5 inch sections. I'll be back. I've ended up with 9 of these squares. Now you may think, oh, I don't need to make that many. You make as many as you want. And also if you make a lot, where's that gone? You can bulk produce your cards too. The next thing to do is to take 2 pieces, and they're identical, but if you turn the one upside down, you've got yourself a 4 patch. But if you have a look, if you butt those seams together, that one bulges out a bit this way, and that one bulges out a bit that way. Whichever way you folded the seam, it bulges. And you can slowly and carefully move these around, and you'll feel when those seams are butting together. And you can either pin or just go for it and sew those down. Pop your pin in there, out there. As you can see, I accidentally left my sewing machine on size 4 stitches, so they're coming undone a little bit. I think I'll be okay. I'll get that sewn before it gets any worse, but always use smaller stitches with these. Don't use your huge, enormous stitches. I was using that for my zigzag, and I didn't reset it properly afterwards. So now let's sew up the seam. When you get to the pin, don't forget to pull it out, and on you go. At this stage, I'm going to check my fabric to see if it fits in the hole, just because sewing isn't an exact science where I'm concerned. So it could be just right, it could be too small or too big. It's not going to be too big, it could be too small. And it's just going to make it if I'm very lucky, if I'm very careful. But I think that, see that edge is coming out. I'm going to add another layer of blocks there. I need to get a 9 patch now to get this to fit, not a 4 patch. So I've added an extra 2 on there. I'm now going to make this into a row of 3 and then add it onto this. And because I've pressed to the dark side on this 9 patch, you can still butt up your joins. They still nest in nicely. Just takes a little tiny bit of fiddling to make sure they're comfortable. Pin them in place and then sew. I've now pressed it, and that's all the sewing done. And doesn't that look cute? And it's going to look even cuter when it's in here. Now I think I'm going to have to trim it. Yep, just a bit. Take a bit off both sides because I want it to be central. Like that. Let's try it now. Pop it in there. Now we need to be sure it's going in the right place. So I'm carefully opening it out. And then turning it that way and opening it out. It's still not perfectly central. Do your best on getting it central, but it doesn't matter. Hold it in place, up with your glue stick. Press it down that side, and now you can let go, turn it round. Bit more glue stick. This hasn't got to be firmly fixed. Nobody's going to swing on it. If they do, they really don't know how to treat a Christmas card. And now you got that. Now there are a few things you can do. You can leave it like that, But I'm going to do something else to brighten this up a little bit more. Make it look more polished, more finished. Get one of my pens. What have I got here? I think I'll go for a 0.2 if I can find one. I can find everything other than a 0.2. I'll go for a 0.5 and that'll do. And I'm going to go right the way around the outside, looking like stitches. You can use a ballpoint pen if you want to for this. It doesn't have to be a fancy fine liner or anything. You can do it in any colour, and you don't even have to do it. Or, if you want to do, you can actually sew around this. Put some real stitching on it. I think this lifts it a little bit. I get frustrated with Christmas cards because my handwriting is a mess. I've never been able to do neat handwriting. So, I write on them sometimes, but very rarely on the front. Because I think I spoil them. I'm going to go right around to the top. And get a ruler. You will think, oh, I can do this without a ruler. You really do need a ruler. This is 3.5, so that's 1.75 in, and it'll be halfway. So that's there-ish. And then use a nice, and then get a nice straight line. And that way then it looks like the bauble is hanging and weighing down nicely. There. And then I'm going to do a bow like that. With some tails going like that. And then on the bottom, okay, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to ruin it, but I'll do it anyway. And an exclamation mark at the end, just because I like exclamation marks. And that was, if you're a sewer, that is so simple. If you're not a sewer, you could just cut out squares, glue them onto a piece of fabric, and then cut that out. There's no need to even sew these if you don't want to. But if you're a sewer, make yourself up a 9 patch if you need one. I was hoping to get away with a 4 patch, but it was just too tight, as you can see. So there we go, another Christmas card. And one option you would have, if these are, like this one's a little bit off centre, you know, it's not square, you could just put a tiny, tiny piece of glue in there, and then the person, when they finished with the card, could take it out and use it in their patchwork. So that's another card done. Easy as that. Next Christmas card, I'm going to use one of these. They're from, let's have a look, Penguin Labels by Mac Ower, 100% cotton. I'm going to pick a cute one. I think I'll go for this family here. First thing I'm going to do is cut it out roughly. And then decide how much of this I want to leave in place. I think I'll be able to leave it all. So the next thing I need to do is get some thick paper. I've got some thick paper, so I'm going to glue this onto the thick paper. Just a little bit of glue up in the corner, because I want this to be a bit stiffer than usual. So now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and just do some sewing around this. Shall I change my thread? I've got some green, I've got some white. I think I'll use some red. To make this easier, I'm going to trim the paper off just roughly, and then out with some red cotton, rethread my machine. I'm not rethreading the bobbin because you can't see the back of these, so I'm using just the one colour on the top. Otherwise, you've got to change your bobbin, and that stops things being quick and easy if you've got to wind a bobbin every time you change your colour. I wasn't sure what was best to do, so I'm going to go over the outside line. See, I'm showing you right there of gold with the red. Again, keeping the line that I want covered right between the gap in my foot. Another little tip, when you do this, always make sure you zigzag ends at the outside line where you want it to go on the turn, because otherwise it'll just mess it up a little bit. I'm not convinced this gluing things to the paper really is very good. It moves around unless you completely smother it in. You've got to cover it all over, and I don't like the idea of doing that. I'm trying to protect my machine. And for me, it's not the best way. As you can see, I've ended up with a bulge, and I don't want a bulge. There you go, run over the old stitches a little bit, or the initial stitches, pull it out. Now I'm going to come in quite tight, but not too tight to the paper. You don't want to be perforating this. If you pull it, can you see it's like perforations in there? It'll just tear off really easily. You don't want that to happen. So I'm cutting as close as I can without touching those holes. Don't know if it'll be close enough. We'll find out when we get to the next stage. Whoops. Nearly chopped my fabric then. Like that. Now the reason why we've chopped the paper and not the fabric is because I want to use my pinking shears around it. But if I do that with the paper there, I'm going to blunt my pinking shears. And as you all know, blunting pinking shears is not allowed. So turn this over now and go as close to the paper as I can, but without actually cutting the paper. Right, that was a little bit short, but I'm just about managing. There we go. So now we got some pinked edges. And you think, well, why have you sewn that to the paper? I'll show you. Let's trim my thread ends off. For the next stage, you can use those, like I'm not sure what you call them, like little pad things with glue on either side. I don't know what the official name is. But because I'm trying to use as much of my scrap as possible, I'm going to use a little bit of felt. I'm going to cut myself out some squares. Absolutely no reason to measure this whatsoever. And I'm going to try 2 different ways of doing this because I've never done this before. I just thought this is a clever way of using up my little tiny scraps of felt. So I've got those there, but I'm also going to take a little bit bigger scrap. You see this was all faded as well. It's not very pretty looking. And I'm going to glue this in half. Maybe able to do this with my glue stick actually rather than the glue gun because it's still warming up. Fold it in half like that and fold it. And what this has done, look how furry this is, it's made it twice as thick. So I'm going to cut some squares out of this as well. There. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I can take my card. Aha, I've just had a thought. Rather than use a little card, I've got these cards here. So I thought, I wonder if they fit, and look at that, it fits. Now you've got the option just to glue that on, but I don't want to do that. I want to give it that little bit of a like 3-dimensional look. So let's have a look. If I put my doubled ones, I think they're going to be the best on the back. Always check things out. And that's going to be that far away. And if I put my thin ones on, I don't think they're going to make a lot of difference. So try that. No, that's not going to make a lot of difference. So I'm going to use these felt ones. My glue gun has warmed up now, so I'm just going to stick a little bit of hot glue. Ow! Not on my fingers, preferably. Stick them on the back, 1 in each corner, but not too close to the edge. You don't want them sticking out. And I always end up with hot glue over my nails, and then I end up, everything I pick up sticks to me. I'm a very messy crafter. Oh, that bulge is really annoying me. And now I'm going to go very quickly and put a little blob of hot glue on each piece there, like that. And then, before it cools, pop that in the middle there. Now I know that's not strictly a scrap, but It is for me because I can't think of anything to use that for other than tags. So I think that looks really good. It gives you that little bit of three-dimensional look, but you can't see the pads. So there we go, another super quick, super easy card. And if you want to, you don't even have to do any of the sewing or anything. You can just glue it onto a card like this and you've got yourself a very, very, very quick craft, which would be great for children. For this next card, I'm going to show you the basic idea, but I'm not going to go through the process of sewing because I think you've seen now how to join strips together if you didn't know how. I've got this card and it's got like a border ready on it. You could draw a border or you can just work to the outside of your card. Depends what you want to do. I got myself a piece of paper. I folded it in half and then cut a heart shape that would fit nicely into the box. Open it out, and you can see that it's a really nice fit. So now I'm going to join some pieces of creams, whites and golds that I've got together so that they'll cover the heart. And you just keep adding strip after strip until you've got the right length. And as you can see, these are far too long, so I won't need that whole length. I'll be chopping them off. Let's have a look. I can chop them off as I go. That one can shorten there. So let's have a look how many pieces I'm going to need to cover this heart. Got a few different fabrics. Put them in order. I know which order I'm sewing them in. And again, I'm going to lose half an inch off every strip because I'm doing a seam. So I got to make sure I got plenty of fabric left over. And I think I'll put one down the bottom just in case I run out. It can't do any harm. I can always chop it off if it's too big. Now I'll get these strips sewn up and I'll get back to you. So now I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to glue this piece of fabric to the heart using some glue stick. Ew. Sometimes my glue sticks go really, really gloopy. I don't know why. I don't think it's the temperature. This is Wales and it's October. So it's certainly not so hot that it's melting my glue stick. Put that on there. Now come down a little bit. So I've got a bit of fabric top and bottom. I don't want to end too close to the bottom of the heart with a seam. Give it a good press. If you've got children helping you here, you can get them to bash it. They'll enjoy that bit. Hang on a minute. If I got a piece of... No, there's a piece of cotton in there. I thought it wouldn't lie flat. Come on, out you come. I don't want to come out. Get out. I want to live inside. You can't. That's better. Nice and smooth. Oh, I need a little bit of glue down there to glue the point on. Out with my pinking shears again. Cut around the edge. As you can see, I forgot to change my cotton. I'd already started. I thought, oh, it'll be fine using red. Nobody will know. And then I had to turn it over to show you all me cutting it. So now you know I use red thread on white and cream cotton fabric. I know, I know. Now I've got this, which is, well, you can see it's a sleeve of a dress. I got this for, about 50p a long, long time ago. May not have been that much. It was in some dress that was stained, so I'd cut off all the nice lacy bits on the sleeves and the collar, things like that. And now I'm just going to cut out one of these medallions. I've been using this fabric for years. If you can get something with large enough pieces on, you'll never run out of it. If you find an old dress or skirt or shirt, something you like, surprising how far it'll stretch. On this flower, to give it a little bit of interest, I think I'm going to need to put some paper down. That'll do. I'm just going to put a little bit of brown. This is just stamping ink off an ink pad. Blob it all around the outsides, and that way then it'll stand out more because it's a little bit light. If you're using something that stands out anyway, don't worry. And I'm going to put a blob in the middle as well. Why not? Next, I'm going to get some ribbon. This is pretty. Can you see it? It's got like a silver thread running through it. Make 2 loops, tie it together into a bow, and then wiggle it about. Let it do its thing. Get it to the right size, and you'll end up with a perfect bow virtually every time. That's going to be going in the centre of the flower there. I want a bit of an angle, but not too much. I'm going to fold those pieces in like that, and then cut a 45-degree angle. Yep, that's fine. While my glue gun is hotting up, now I'm going to stick this onto the card. And do you remember I said I couldn't find these? Well, I was just looking for my stamp pads and I found them. They're from Hobbycraft. They're like little foam dot things. I don't know what they're called. You know, there's no label in here, so I can't give you the right name. It just makes things a little bit more three-dimensional if you use these. Pop 3 on. As you've seen, you can do this with felt. If you've got some felt and you don't have these dots, no need to go out and buy any. Like that. And now centralise your heart as best you can. Don't worry if it's not completely central. It just would look better if it's nearer rather than further away centre. Like that. There we go. I'm going to get my glue gun, put a little bit of glue on there, not too much. Pop that on the one top corner of the heart. I think it looks better than the centre, but if you fancy putting it in the centre, put it in the centre, whatever you like. Check which side's your nicest side of your bow. I think that is. So a little blob of glue on the back of there. You can stitch this on as well if you like, if you don't have a glue gun and you want to keep it all sewing related. And then I'm going to pop that in the middle of the flower. Is that the middle? No, it's not. That's the middle. Like that. And isn't that pretty? And that's very, very few scraps. There's a little bit of old lace and a little bit of ribbon. And look at that. It looks wonderful. You can make something just like this, just as easily. Just takes a few scraps, a bit of imagination and a little bit of time. Not too much, because I like quick and easy. Well, I hope I've inspired you to give this a go, to try making your own cards, to use up your little scraps. We didn't use any big pieces of anything. Let me know if you're going to make these cards and let me know which one is your favourite. I would love to know. I'm looking and I can't really decide. I think this one's my favourite. But then again, I really like this one. And that one was so easy to make. Oh, and that one's cute. Oh, and this one's pink. And that one, I don't know, I just love that one. I think it's lovely because it's quite rustic. I can't decide. Can you decide? Let me know what you decide is your favourite one. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. But until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye.